Hello guys, it is so interesting to observe totally different reactions to the new announcements from the Kremlin. Medvedev and then Putin confirmed that they plan Russia's 2026 budget as a military budget. And we observe how immediately millions of Russians rush to their banks to withdraw the money. They understand the budget is empty and the potential resources for the 2026 war will be taken directly from the Russian pockets. While many optimists in the United States, in the European Union, keep pretending that Putin is interested in the negotiations and war can end in a month or two. Let's be realistic and look attentively at what is happening inside Russia. They obviously have a lot of problems. First of all, with the oil production, with gasoline crisis, with constantly falling oil prices, and the prognosis for the next year and the months to come is actually very good for us, but very bad for Russia. And their GDP keeps falling. It was 4.3% when Putin began his blitzkrieg, and now it is 1%, and Putin himself is very dissatisfied, but demonstrates this Russian classical paradox. He speaks about the problems in the Russian budget, but then he speaks about the success of the military operation, which once again was planned as a blitzkrieg, but now continues for almost 4 years and actually soon will be longer than the Second World War for the USSR. Let's discuss all of that in the video, and I believe you need a person from Ukraine to spread the truth and, to underline those things that unfortunately many do not notice about Russia. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of the evil empire, subscribe and share these videos, like these videos. That is the best way to demonstrate your solidarity with us, but also the best way to protect your friends, your loved ones from these toxic Russian narratives that distort their reality. So 2026, according to Medvedev, according to Putin, is going to be another military year, another military budget for Russia. It is pathetic, taking into account that officially there is no war. Russia does not have a war with Ukraine, according to the Russian legislation. They have special military operation, but it is not war. And it makes it so Russian, so typical how they hide the truth, how they lie and pretend they are not lying when Putin denies the war, describing it just as a special military operation, but then claims that he needs a stronger war budget. What war budget if there is no war? Anyway, I was surprised to understand that this February will mark, the next February 2026, will mark 4 years since the beginning of the Russian full-scale invasion. And we may say it will start to be longer than the Second World War for Russia. Sounds surprising, but from 1939 to 1941, Russia and Nazi Germany were actually partners and divided Poland together. So don't be surprised for the Kremlin. The Second World War, which they often called the Great Patriotic War, began only in 1941 and finished in 1945. So they experienced serious problems with their budget, and here I need to remind you that all the Russian budget is equal or even smaller to the budget of the state of Texas, and you have many more in the United States, or to the budget of Italy if you prefer the EU comparison. That is unbelievable, taking into account that Russia is the largest country in the world and obviously does not need any new territories. What it needs is a new ruler and some changes perhaps inside the population, and of course more money that they keep burning like crazy on this war. So they plan to continue in 2026. I'm sure they have already counted how many people they are ready to sacrifice, and billions of dollars that otherwise could be used, I don't know, to install toilets somewhere in the Russian cities, not just villages. Subscribe to witness the collapse of the Kremlin regime and to see Putin in The Hague. Just imagine what a beautiful video that is going to be on our channel. So people react to that, and people start taking away their deposits from the Russian banks. And we have statistics that demonstrates how this tendency grows each month. For example, in June 2025, 216 billion rubles were withdrawn by Russians from banks. Then in July, it was already 226, like 10 billion rubles more. In August, it was close to 200, and then in September, and you know that today is the 17th of September, Russians already withdraw 203 million. So we may say during half of the months, they exceeded the numbers of the previous months. Why is that happening? Because Russians know Russia. Russians know the Kremlin. And they witness constantly rising prices. They see gasoline crisis. They just like experience that. They have to spend hours in long queues. They witness it reached Moscow. They understand that Russia often uses barter, just as in the 90s, to get something from China. And obviously, they noticed that with each year of the special military operation, the Kremlin and thus the Russian budget is getting poorer and poorer and poorer. Once again, when they began this war, their GDP was 4.3, now it's 1.3 or something like that. It fell tremendously with this super military production, when literally all of the Russian economy branches are working for war. At the beginning, it gives this effect of growth, of some positivity, but now it's totally exhausted. What is bad in this situation? That it gives more and more poor Russians, like more and more of them lack money, lack the ability to have this somehow normal lifestyle. It's really difficult to say it when talking about their traditions, but more and more of them will be eager to join the army. And that is why when I keep saying that the only way to bring lasting peace and to save a lot of people, not just in Ukraine, even in Russia, is to defeat and demilitarize them. Because otherwise they will keep gathering and they will keep coming, looting and disappearing, being gentle to you too. But it's awful that so many people do not see what the Kremlin states, what are the results of these messages, and that literally nothing is telling about any potential agreement between Ukraine and Russia with Putin's at its top. By the way, there are some positive tendencies in the way republics vote. Единая Россия, Putin's party, did not receive that much support further from the Kremlin. So the further you travel from the Kremlin, the less support you see. And from an ordinary but experienced Ukrainian perspective, I can tell you that the best outcome of this war is the dissolution of the Russian Federation and the controlled process of this dissolution, with many more potentially pro-democratic countries appearing, and people getting freedom to practice their linguistic, their cultural, their religious rights. And I believe it will be way easier to trade gas, oil, and other things with them. And if you want to know more about Russia and this strategy, why it's not a problem but actually an inevitable thing, watch this interview with a famous Ukrainian intellectual that I was proud to film during the Lviv Media Forum. So let's continue implementing drone sanctions. Let's continue watching how Russian economy collapses, because Putin once again underestimated Ukraine and overestimated the Russian army. And I think something similar will happen to the military budget 2026. Let me know in the comments below what are the attitudes in your countries towards any potential negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. Do your people, do your governments believe it is possible, and how realistic that is? But do be careful with the words that you choose, not to, make the algorithm angry, and help us more people hear the truth. Follow me on Instagram, X, Threads, Blue Sky, Discord, all the links in the description of this video. Same as the link to our merch shop with lots of good items that help you become our ambassadors and remind the world about the fight and the need to defeat Russia. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. That's an honor. Let me know, are you available this Saturday for a live 9 p.m. Kyiv as always? And thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!